If yes is perhaps the most important word you could ever have, maybe no goes hand in hand, because with every yes, there's also a no. With every commitment you make, there's also some things that you're saying no to. When I committed my life to Christ, I was saying no to following the ways of the world. I was only going to follow the ways of Jesus Christ. And when I said yes to Darla in matrimony, I said no to every other woman on the planet. And when I said yes to a calling to foreign missions, to global missions, I was saying no to my former way of life and to my own culture, and ready to take on whatever God had. My hands were open, but also required a no. So maybe no is as important as yes when it really comes down to it. And saying no is not always easy. Sometimes people just won't accept your no. I remember when we first came to Mexico and we'd only been here a few weeks, and like I said, I was struggling. Even though coming out of language school, I was still struggling with Spanish and had very little Spanish. And while I was invited to a conference of pastors over on Isla Mujeres, the pastors called me up and said, "Man, we really want to get to know you and know the new missionary and get involved, and we want you to present you and let you be a part of what we're doing. So we want you to come and be a part of our congregation over our convention over in Isla Mujeres." Well, it was an island just off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. And anyway, I got my family and we said, yes, we'll do it. They said, well, what we want you guys to do is take care of the children while we have the convention. And I said, great, we can do that. Darla's got enough Spanish and she can do the children's thing, and I can play a few games and we can have fun doing that, and that'll be a great benefit to the pastors. Well, I get over to the island to find out that I was going to be the keynote speaker at their convention. They must have had about 200 or 300 people there, and they had me speaking. The only problem was I only had 40 words or less. I couldn't do it. Not that I didn't want to, but I just couldn't. So I told the pastor, the lead pastor, I said, look, you don't understand. I don't have Spanish. I would love to do this, but the answer is no, I can't. And he says, don't worry, you can do it in English and we'll translate it. I've got a translator who's here, not a problem. Well, it was still kind of a problem because I was scrambling just to get some sermon together and something to say to these people, and I had about 15 minutes. So, man, it was like everything you learned in seminary of how you're gonna spend an hour in preparation for every minute spoken. That really is not reality. So I was just scrambling, man. I was trying to get something together to say. And finally, I got almost my sermon together, and the pastor comes back to me and he goes, oh, by the way, our translator had to get back over to the mainland, and the last ferry just left, and he had to get over there. And so you're going to need to do it in Spanish. And I said, look, you don't understand. The answer is no, I can't. I don't have enough Spanish to do this. And he says, he put the guilt trip on me, and he said, you know, if you don't do this, if you don't speak to these people today, because they're expecting to hear from you, you're not going to have a ministry here. And I was a young enough missionary to believe that. So I said, okay, I guess I will just get up in front of them, even if I don't have any words. And so I get up, and I'm going to be taught, and I decided to talk about Jesus walking on the water. And I was talking to them about that, and I got into my sermon, and man, I'm just making it through my Spanglish, and they're kind of halfway understanding, and man, I think I'm doing well. And I get to that point where Peter's in the boat, and rather than Jesus saying, Peter, come, I said, perro, ven. And that means dog, come. And so they all just start laughing, and it was a joke, and for a long time. But I made it even worse because I started saying then, you know, Jesus could have even made dogs walk on water. I tried to get my way out of it, and it was more laughter. And they had a good time enjoying that, enjoying making fun of the new missionary pretty much. And I never lived it down. Every time I would see one of those pastors, my whole career there was like, Perro Ben, you know, dog come. They were saying that to me all the time. So, you know, sometimes you need to let your no be no. And to make that story even more interesting or more threatening, my daughter and I, she was only 8 years old, and my son and Darla had to take the car back over on the car ferry, so they had to leave early. And at the end of the convention, they said, how many of you guys need a boat ride back to the mainland? And only about 10 people raised their hand, and me and my daughter was one of them, or two of them. And so they said, okay, we got a boat for you, just be down at the dock. And so we get down there, and there was a little bitty fishing boat. And rather than 10 people showed up, there was like 35 people that they put into this little fishing boat. And it was only like about a foot off the water, and you know, before it was going to go under. I told my daughter, she was a good swimmer, I said, if this thing goes down, just swim away from these people, don't let them bring you down. And these ladies are all getting on there with their Mayan dresses, and you know, these older ladies. And it was a little, I thought I was going to have to put my sermon into practice and see if we could walk on the water, but luckily we made it. Well, I guess what I'm trying to teach you here is this: let your no be no. Sometimes it's really important that you learn the word no. What to say no to is just as important as saying yes. Those three